The stars looked different through the main window of the spaceship horizon. Captain Jake Morrison stood there watching them, his coffee getting cold in his hands. It was another normal day in space, or so he thought. The year was 2157, and humans had been talking to aliens for only 6 months now. "Captain, we have another message from the Zephyrian Council," said Ben Torres from his seat at the communication desk. Ben was young, maybe 25, with dark hair and excited eyes. He loved his job of talking to aliens. Jake walked over to Ben's station. The ship was quiet except for the soft hum of engines. Most of the crew was sleeping. It was the night shift, and Jake liked these quiet hours. "What do they want now?" Jake asked. Ben smiled and put the message on the big screen. Strange symbols filled the air, then changed into English words. The translation computer was getting better every day. "They want to meet our science team tomorrow," Ben said. "They're very interested in Dr. Grant's work." Dr. Lisa Grant was the smartest person Jake had ever met. She studied alien life and could figure out how their bodies worked just by looking at them. She was 32, had red hair, and never seemed to sleep. She was always working in her lab. Jake nodded. "Tell them yes, but keep the meeting on our ship." 6 months ago, everything changed for humans. They had been alone in space, thinking they were the only smart life in the universe. Then the aliens found them. The Zephyrian Council was a group of 12 different alien species who controlled this part of the galaxy. They seemed friendly and wanted to welcome humans to their big family. At first, everyone on Earth was excited. Finally, humans were not alone. The aliens shared some of their technology. They showed humans how to make better engines for spaceships. They taught humans new ways to make energy. It was like Christmas every day for the scientists. But then, something strange started happening. Sam Carter was the ship's main engineer. He was a big man with rough hands and a kind face. He could fix anything and make it work better than before. When the aliens gave humans their engine designs, Sam looked at them and said, "I can make this better." And he did. In just 2 weeks, Sam built an engine that was twice as fast as the alien one. The aliens were surprised. They had been using the same engine design for 1,000 years. Kate Murphy was in charge of weapons on the ship. She was tough, with short brown hair and muscles that came from years of hard work. When the aliens showed humans their defense systems, Kate studied them for 3 days. Then she built something new that was much stronger. "How did you do this? So fast?" asked the alien ambassador when he saw Kate's work. Kate just smiled. "Humans like to make things better." This happened again and again. Every time the aliens shared their technology, humans would improve it within days. The aliens had been using the same tools and machines for hundreds of years. Humans looked at everything with fresh eyes and found ways to make it work better. Dr. Grant made the biggest discovery of all. She found out that most alien species stopped changing and growing millions of years ago. Their bodies, their minds, their technology, everything stayed the same. But humans were different. Humans never stopped changing and learning. It's like they reached the top of a mountain and decided to stay there, Dr. Grant told Jake one day. But humans keep climbing to find new mountains. The Zephyrian Council started having secret meetings. Jake didn't know about them, but Admiral Rick Hayes back on Earth was getting worried. He commanded all of Earth's space forces. He was an old soldier with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Something's not right," Rick told his officers during a video call with Jake. "Our spy satellites are picking up more alien ships near our colonies. When I ask the ambassadors about it, they just smile and say everything is fine." Jake felt the same worry. The aliens had been so friendly at first, but now they seemed different. They asked fewer questions about human culture and more questions about human technology. They wanted to know how fast humans could build new machines. They wanted to know how many humans lived on each world. The answer to that last question was 12 billion people on Earth, 2 million on Mars, 500,000 on the Moon, and about 300,000 spread across other colonies in space. Humans had been busy in the last 100 years. "Keep watching," Jake told Rick. "If anything feels wrong, let me know right away." But the warning came too late. Jake was eating breakfast when the alarm started screaming. Ben Torres was shouting from his station, but Jake couldn't understand the words over the noise. He ran to the main control room just as the biggest screen lit up with a view of Earth. Giant alien ships were appearing around his homeworld. Not one or two, but hundreds of them. They were bigger than anything humans had ever built. They looked like dark metal mountains floating in space. "Captain!" shouted Amy Brooks from her station. Amy watched all the space traffic and kept track of everything flying around. Her face was white with fear. "The same thing is happening at Mars, the moon and all our colonies, alien fleets everywhere." Jake felt his heart stop. This was not a visit, this was an attack. "Get me Admiral Hayes," he ordered. Ben's hands flew over his controls, but after a few seconds he looked up with tears in his eyes. "I can't reach anyone, Captain. All communication with Earth is cut off." On the big screen, Jake watched the alien ships move into position around Earth. They formed a perfect circle around the blue planet. Then something began to glow on the front of each ship. "What are they doing?" whispered Dr. Grant, who had just run into the control room. Jake didn't know, but he had a terrible feeling. "All power to engines," he ordered. "Get us closer to Earth." "Captain, that will take us 6 hours at full speed," said their pilot. Chris Adams. Chris was calm under pressure, but even his steady voice was shaking now. "Do it," Jake said. But they never made it to Earth. Because Earth stopped being there, the alien weapons fired all at once. But these were not normal weapons that destroyed things. These were something much worse. Jake watched his homeworld simply disappear. Not explode like in the movies, not burn up in fire, just vanish as if it had never existed at all. Where Earth had been spinning in space, there was now nothing. Empty darkness. The moon was still there, but it was alone now, spinning around empty space where its planet used to be. "No," Jake whispered. "No, no, no. The same thing happened to Mars, gone. The moon bases vanished. The space stations around Jupiter disappeared like they were never built. In less than 10 minutes, almost all of human civilization was erased from existence. 12 billion people. Gone. Not dead, but erased, as if they had never been born." Jake's ship, the Horizon, was far away doing a survey mission at the edge of known space. They were the only human ship that survived because they were too far away for the aliens to find. 200 people. That was all that was left of the human race. The control room was silent except for the sound of people crying. Jake stared at the screen where Earth should have been. His wife had been down there. His children. His parents. Everyone he had ever known except for the crew on this ship. "Captain," Ben said quietly, "I'm getting a message from the Zephyrian Council." Jake's hands turned into fists. "Put it on screen." The alien ambassador appeared. He was tall and thin with blue skin and 4 arms. His face showed no emotion at all. "Captain Morrison," the alien said in perfect English, "we are sorry for what we had to do. But your species was too dangerous to let live. You adapt too quickly. You learn too fast. In a few hundred years, you would have been stronger than all of us combined. We could not allow that." The alien paused, then continued. "We have left your ship alive as a reminder. You are the last humans in the universe. Do not try to rebuild your species. Do not try to get revenge. Live quietly, and we will let you die in peace." The message ended. Jake stood there staring at the empty screen. Around him, his crew waited for orders. They were soldiers and scientists and engineers. They were the best humanity had to offer. And now they were all that was left. "Captain?" Dr. Grant asked softly. "What do we do now?" Jake looked at her, then at the rest of his crew. 200 people against an empire of 12 alien species spread across thousands of worlds. It should have been hopeless. But Jake remembered what Dr. Grant had discovered. Humans never stopped adapting, never stopped learning, never stopped growing. The aliens had made a mistake. They thought they had erased humanity's future, but they had only made humanity very, very angry. "We survive," Jake said quietly. "We learn. We adapt. And then we make them pay for what they did." Outside the ship, space was dark and cold and empty where Earth used to shine. But inside the ship, something new was being born. Not the peaceful, curious humanity that had reached for the stars with open hands. Something much more dangerous was taking its place. The aliens thought they had won. They would learn how wrong they were. 5 years had passed since Earth died. 5 long years of hiding in the dark spaces between stars. Captain Jake Morrison looked older now. His hair had gray streaks, and his eyes had seen too much pain. But he was still alive, and so were most of his crew. The ship Horizon had become their entire world. 200 people living in metal rooms, breathing recycled air, eating food grown in tiny gardens. It should have driven them crazy, but humans were good at adapting. They always had been. "Captain, we're running low on fuel again," said Sam Carter. The big engineer looked tired. His hands were always dirty now from fixing things with whatever they could find. "We need to risk another supply run." Jake nodded. They had been doing this for years now, sneaking to dead worlds, old asteroid fields, anywhere they might find fuel or food or parts for the ship. Always hiding, always running. Dr. Lisa Grant walked into the control room carrying a data pad. She looked different too. The friendly scientist who used to smile all the time was gone. Now she studied aliens the way a hunter studies prey. "I've been thinking about what Ben heard on the alien radio channels," she said. Ben Torres still listened to alien communications every day, learning their languages, trying to understand their plans. "What about it?" Jake asked. Lisa put her datapad on the table. It showed pictures of different alien species. "They're not just hunting us for revenge. They're studying us. Every time they find traces of where we've been, they take samples. They want to know how we think, how we adapt so fast." Amy Brooks was checking their supply lists nearby. She had become very good at making a little bit of everything last a long time. "Why would they care? They already won." "Because they're scared," Lisa said. "I've been studying the data we collected about them before Earth died. Do you know how long most of these alien species have been exactly the same?" Jake shook his head. "The Zephyrians haven't changed their technology in over 2,000 years. The Cracks have been using the same weapons for 3,000 years. They're not like us. When they reach a certain point, they just stop growing." Ben looked up from his communication station. "That would explain something I heard yesterday. The aliens are having trouble with some of their old colonies. Places where they haven't been for a long time are starting to rebel." This was interesting news. Jake had been thinking a lot about their situation. They couldn't hide forever. Their ship was strong, but it was getting old. Their food supplies were always running low, and there were only 200 of them. But maybe that didn't matter. Maybe being small was actually better. "Dan, come here," Jake called. Dan Parker had been a soldier before he joined the space mission. Now he trained anyone who wanted to learn how to fight. Most of the crew had learned basic combat in the past 5 years. Dan walked over, moving with the careful steps of someone always ready for trouble. "What do you need, Captain?" "How many of our people can handle weapons now?" Dan thought for a moment. "About 150. The others are too young, too old, or needed for other jobs. But the ones who can fight are getting pretty good." Jake looked around at his crew. These people had lost everything, their families, their homes, their entire world. But they were still here, still learning, still adapting. "Ben, what's the closest alien outpost to our position?" Ben checked his charts. "There's a small mining station about 2 days away. Maybe 30 aliens working there." "Why?" Jake was quiet for a long moment. Everyone waited for him to speak. "We can't keep running forever," he finally said. "Our ship is dying, our supplies are running out, but we have something they don't expect." "What's that?" Amy asked. "They think we're just trying to survive. They think we're broken and scared. But we're not the same humans who lived on Earth. We've been living in space for 5 years, learning to fight, learning to hate. We've become something new." Dr. Grant understood first. "You want to attack them." "Not attack. Hunt. We're going to become something they never expected to face." Sam looked worried. "Captain, there are only 200 of us. The aliens have entire fleets." "The aliens have fleets, but they're slow," Jake said. "They think the same way they've been thinking for thousands of years. We think differently every day. He walked to the big window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien ships were looking for them, but Jake was tired of being hunted. We're going to hit that mining station, he decided. We're going to take their supplies, their fuel, and their information. Then we're going to disappear before they know what happened. Dan smiled for the first time in months. A raid, I like it. But this is just the beginning, Jake continued. We're not trying to win a war. We're trying to become something that scares them more than death. Amy frowned. What do you mean? Lisa answered before Jake could speak. He means we become ghosts. We hit them when they don't expect it, take what we need and vanish, over and over again. But why? Ben asked. What's the point? Jake turned back to his crew. 200 people, who had survived the end of their entire species. 200 people who had learned to live in the dark between stars. Because eventually we're going to find other human survivors. The aliens kept some of us alive for experiments, remember? We're going to find them and free them. And every alien outpost we hit makes us stronger and them weaker. Over the next week they planned their first raid. Sam worked on making their ship quieter and faster. Dan trained teams for quick attacks. Lisa studied alien biology to find weaknesses. Ben learned how to jam alien communications. Amy figured out how to make their food and fuel last longer. Chris Adams, their pilot, practiced flying patterns that would be hard to track. Everyone had a job. Everyone was part of the plan. The night before the raid, Jake couldn't sleep. He stood in his small room looking at the last picture of Earth. His family was in that picture, smiling in the sunshine that no longer existed. We're coming back, he whispered to the photo. Not as the people we were, but as something stronger, something angrier, something that will make them pay. Dr. Grant knocked on his door. Captain, are you ready for tomorrow? Jake put the picture away and looked at her. Are you having doubts? No, she said quietly. I'm having the opposite problem. I'm looking forward to it too much. Is that wrong? Jake thought about that. The old him, the one who lived on Earth, might have said yes. But that person was gone, erased along with his world. No, he said. It's not wrong. It's human. The next morning, they attacked their first alien outpost. It was over in 20 minutes. The aliens never saw them coming, never understood what hit them. By the time other aliens arrived to investigate, the horizon was already gone, vanishing into the dark between stars. But they left something behind. A message burned into the metal wall of the alien base. Humans remember. It was the first time in 5 years that humanity had fought back. It would not be the last. In his captain's log that night, Jake wrote, Today we stopped being refugees. Today we became hunters. The war for human survival had begun. 10 years had passed since Earth died. Captain Jake Morrison was no longer the same man who had watched his world disappear. His face was harder now, marked with scars from battles fought in the dark between stars. His crew called him the Ghost, Captain because he could make their ship appear and vanish like smoke. The ship Horizon was different too. Sam Carter had rebuilt it 3 times using stolen alien technology. It looked like a monster now, covered in weapons and armor taken from dozens of different alien species. The ship could change its shape and color to hide among asteroids or look like space junk. Target spotted, said Chris Adams from the pilot's seat. Chris had become the best pilot in known space. He could fly through an asteroid field blindfolded and land on a moving ship without making a sound. Jake looked at the screen. An alien transport ship was moving slowly through space, carrying supplies to a military base. It was big and fat and had no idea what was coming. How many aliens on board? Jake asked. Ben Torres checked his scanners. Ben could now speak 12 different alien languages and hack into any computer system. 43 crew members, all Zephyrians. Jake's eyes went cold. Zephyrians were the ones who had given the order to erase Earth. He hated them more than any other species. Dr. Grant, are you ready? Dr. Lisa Grant looked up from her workstation. She was not the kind scientist she used to be. Now she created weapons that killed aliens in very specific ways. She knew exactly how to hurt each different species. "The sleeping gas is ready," she said. "It will knock out Zephyrians in 30 seconds but won't hurt humans." "Good. Dan, is your team ready?" Dan Parker nodded. He led the boarding teams now. He had trained over 100 humans to fight like shadows. They could move through alien ships without being seen and kill without making noise. "We're ready, Captain." Jake stood up. He wore black armor covered with alien technology. On his belt were weapons that no human had ever carried before. Things that could cut through any metal or make aliens forget how to breathe. "Remember the plan," he told his crew. "We take the ship quietly. We download all their information. We take their supplies, and we leave a message they won't forget." The attack began. Chris flew the horizon close to the alien ship without being detected. Amy Brooks had learned to jam all kinds of alien sensors, so the transport never saw them coming. Dan's team moved through space wearing suits that made them invisible. They cut into the alien ship like ghosts entering a house. The sleeping gas spread through the air systems. Within minutes, every alien on the ship was unconscious. Jake walked through the captured ship with his team. The aliens lay sleeping on the floor, helpless. The old Jake might have felt sorry for them. This Jake felt nothing. "Ben, get everything from their computers," he ordered. "I want to know where they've been, where they're going, and what they're carrying." "Already working on it, Captain," Ben said, his fingers flying over alien control panels. Nina Bell was with them now. She had been rescued from an alien prison ship 2 years ago. She was an expert at breaking into computer systems and had taught Ben many new tricks. "Their files are encrypted," Nina said, "but I can crack it. Give me 10 minutes. While Nina worked, Sam Carter's team took everything useful from the ship. Fuel, food, weapons, spare parts, nothing was wasted. They had learned to use every piece of alien technology. "Captain," said Pete Cohen, another rescued human who specialized in explosives. "Should I set the charges?" Jake thought for a moment. "No. We're not destroying this ship. We're sending it back with a message." He walked to the ship's communication system and started recording. "This message is for the Zephyrian Council," Jake said, his voice cold and calm. "You erased our world. You killed our families. You thought you ended the human race, but you were wrong." He paused, looking directly into the camera. "We are still here. We are in your supply lines. We are in your computer systems. We are in the dark spaces where you don't look. And we are growing stronger every day." Jake's eyes seemed to burn with inner fire. "You created us. The humans you knew were peaceful explorers who wanted to make friends, but those humans died with Earth. What you face now is something new, something you made by trying to destroy us." He leaned closer to the camera. "We know where your colonies are. We know where your families live. We know how to hurt each of your species in ways you can't imagine. And we are coming." The message ended. "Nina, did you get their files?" Jake asked. "Everything," she replied with a smile, "including the location of 3 more prison ships with human survivors." This was the best news they had heard in months. Every rescued human made them stronger. The survivors always joined their cause. With fierce dedication. "Set course for the nearest prison ship," Jake ordered Chris. As they prepared to leave, Jake looked around the alien ship one more time. The sleeping aliens would wake up in a few hours to find their ship stripped of everything valuable. They would find the message, and they would be afraid. Good. Fear was a weapon too. Over the next year, Jake's small fleet grew. They had rescued over 800 human survivors from alien prisons. Each rescue mission made them bolder and smarter. Alex Turner led scouting missions that mapped alien territories. Tony Walsh and Kelly Reed helped turn rescued humans into fighters. Rachel Stone coordinated attacks across multiple star systems. But the most important addition was Admiral Rick Hayes. They had found him on a prison ship, kept alive for experiments. The old admiral was thin and scarred, but his mind was sharp, as ever. "Jake," Rick said during a planning meeting, "we need to think bigger." "What do you mean?" Rick pointed to a star map showing alien territories. "We've been hitting supply ships and small outposts. But the aliens have thousands of worlds. We need to hurt them in a way that really matters. Dr. Grant looked up from her work. She had been developing new weapons that could target specific alien biology. I've been thinking the same thing. We need to hit their home worlds. The room went quiet. Attacking alien homeworlds would mean fighting millions of enemies instead of dozens. It sounds impossible, said Sam Carter. Everything we've done has been impossible, Jake replied. But we keep doing it anyway. Amy Brooks had been studying alien supply networks. If we could cut off their main trade routes, their colonies would start having problems. Hungry aliens might start questioning their leaders. And scared aliens make mistakes, added Dan Parker. Jake looked around at his officers. These people had survived the end of their species and turned themselves into something the galaxy had never seen. They were no longer human in the old sense. They were something new, something adapted for war. All right, Jake decided. We start planning attacks on major alien installations, not just raids anymore. Real battles. Ben Torres looked worried. Captain, that means we'll be fighting entire fleets. Jake smiled, but it was not a kind smile. Let them come. We're not the same species they tried to erase. We're faster, smarter, and angrier, and we have something they don't. What's that? Asked Chris. We have nothing left to lose. Outside their hidden base, alien hunter fleets still searched for them, but now Jake's people were hunting the hunters. The galaxy was about to learn what humanity could become when it stopped trying to make friends and started trying to survive. The war was just beginning. 20 years had passed since Earth was erased. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship Retribution, looking at the screens showing 12 different star systems. Today, the aliens would learn what it meant to face humanity's full anger. The ship around him was massive, built in secret shipyards hidden inside dead planets. It was covered in weapons that no alien had ever seen before. Behind it flew a fleet of 1,000 human ships, each one carrying survivors who had lost everything. All ships report ready, said Ben Torres. He was older now, with gray hair, but his voice was steady. He commanded the communication networks that connected every human ship across the galaxy. Jake nodded. His face was covered in scars from 2 decades of war. His crew called him the Death Admiral, because everywhere he went, alien worlds fell silent. Dr. Grant, are the special weapons ready? Dr. Lisa Grant looked up from her station. She had become something that would have frightened the old Earth humans. Her laboratory created weapons that killed entire species in ways they never expected. The reality erasers are charged and ready, she said. But these are not like the ones the aliens used on Earth. These are worse. Much worse. The alien weapons had been quick and clean. Earth had simply vanished, but human weapons were designed to cause maximum suffering. The aliens would experience every moment of their destruction. Sam, how are the ships holding up? Sam Carter had built the greatest war machine in galactic history. Every ship in the human fleet could change shape, turn invisible, and repair itself. They were made from the technology of a dozen alien species, but improved by human engineering. All systems perfect, Admiral, Sam reported. The fleet is ready for simultaneous attacks on all 12 homeworlds. Jake looked around his bridge. These people had started as 200 refugees hiding in a single ship. Now they commanded fleets that could destroy entire civilizations. Dan Parker stood at the weapons control station. He had trained an army of human soldiers who fought like demons. Chris Adams controlled a squadron of fighters that moved through space like deadly ghosts. Amy Brooks managed supply lines that stretched across the galaxy, and there were so many more. Alex Turner led scout ships that had mapped every alien world. Tony Walsh commanded engineering teams that could build weapons from space junk. Kelly Reed trained medics who could keep human soldiers fighting when they should have been dead. All of them had lost families on Earth. All of them had sworn the same oath. The aliens would pay. Nina, are their communication networks ready? Jake asked. Nina Bell smiled. She had spent years learning to control alien computer systems. Today, every alien in the galaxy would hear the same message at the same time. Their networks are completely under our control, she said. When you give the word, every alien communication device will show your message. Jake walked to the center of the bridge. Today was the day he had been planning for 20 years. The day humanity would take its revenge. Begin the broadcast. Across the galaxy, on 12 different worlds, billions of aliens suddenly found, their screens going dark. Then Jake's face appeared, cold and terrible. 20 years ago you erased my world, Jake said, his voice reaching every alien ear. You killed 12 billion humans because you were afraid of what we might become. He paused, letting the words sink in. Today, you learn what we did become. On the screens behind Jake, images appeared of the human fleet surrounding the alien homeworlds. Thousands of ships, each one carrying weapons that could crack planets. You thought you were ending a threat, Jake continued. But you were creating something much worse. You took peaceful explorers and turned them into perfect killers. You took curious scientists and turned them into destroyers of worlds. The alien leaders were frantically trying to contact their fleets, but their communications were dead. Nina had made sure of that. We spent 20 years learning everything about you, Jake said. How you think, how you live, how you die. We know which of your children go to which schools. We know where your leaders sleep at night. We know the exact frequencies that will shatter your crystal cities and the exact chemicals that will poison your water. Dr. Grant had prepared specific weapons for each alien species. The proud Zephyrians would watch their crystalline bodies slowly turn to dust. The warrior cracks would feel their heavy bones breaking under gravity weapons. The gas-based Nebulon would burn in their own atmosphere. You could have lived in peace with us, Jake said. We wanted to be your friends. We wanted to learn from you and share with you. But you chose fear over friendship. You chose murder over cooperation. The message was being broadcast to every alien world, every space station, every ship in the Hop galaxy. Nowhere could hide from Jake's words. Now you face the consequences of that choice. Jake raised his hand. Around 12 different star systems, human fleets moved into attack positions. You erased Earth in 10 minutes, Jake said. We will take longer. We want you to understand what you did. We want you to feel the fear that our children felt in their last moments. The reality erasers began to charge. But these weapons were different from the alien ones. They didn't just remove matter from existence. They trapped consciousness in empty space, aware but helpless forever. Some of you tried to surrender, Jake continued. Some of you claimed you were against the decision to destroy Earth, but you all stayed silent when it happened. You all benefited from our deaths, so you all share the blame. On the alien worlds, panic was spreading. Civilians ran through the streets. Military forces tried to organize defenses, but it was far too late. To the few species who tried to help us, who spoke against Earth's destruction, we offer one choice, Jake said. Leave these systems now. Go far away and never return. We will not hunt you if you do not stand with our enemies. Several alien ships began fleeing immediately. Jake watched them go without emotion. Mercy was not something he felt often anymore, but he could still recognize innocence when he saw it. To everyone else, Jake said, his voice becoming ice cold. Remember this moment, remember the fear you feel right now, because this is what 12 billion humans felt when you murdered them. Jake dropped his hand. Fire. Across 12 star systems, human weapons discharged simultaneously, but these were not quick deaths. The reality erasers worked slowly, giving the aliens time to understand what was happening to them. Jake watched the screens as alien homeworlds began to fade from existence. Not exploding, not burning, but simply ceasing to be. Just like Earth had 20 years ago. The alien leaders sent desperate messages begging for mercy, offering anything for their lives. Jake listened to none of them. You wanted to end the human story, he said into the communication system. Instead, you ended your own. One by one, the alien homeworlds vanished. Billions of lives erased just as Earth had been erased. The mighty Zephyrian Council, the proud Krax Empire, the ancient Vex Collective, all of them simply stopped existing. When it was over, Jake stood in the silence of his bridge. Around him, his crew watched the empty spaces where enemy worlds had been. "It's finished," said Ben Torres quietly. Jake nodded. The galaxy that had erased humanity now belonged to humans. But they were not the same species that had once lived on Earth. They were something harder, colder, shaped by loss and made strong by suffering. "Set course for Earth's coordinates," Jake ordered. The human fleet moved toward the empty space, where their home world had once spun. When they arrived, Jake had a monument built from the metals of destroyed alien ships. On it were written the names of every human who had died when Earth was erased. At the bottom was a simple message. "We came home." But home was no longer a place. Home was wherever humanity chose to make it stand. And humanity would never be defenseless again. The age of aliens was over. The age of humans had begun. And in the darkness between stars, Jake Morrison kept his promise to the dead. Every human had come home at last.